It's a Sunday today as we shoot, but I really don't mind working on a Sunday because work looks this great. Because today we are driving the electric Porsche Taycan, and while of course the car looks fabulous on the exterior, the hard pressing question that we need to answer today is that over the decades we have known Porsche to build some of the finest cars in terms of driving performance. Now, is the Taycan, despite being an all-electric car, still a true Porsche in every sense? And also, being an electric car, what kind of experience does it offer and what kind of value does it give for the money you spend on this? That's exactly what we'll find out over the next few minutes. Now, once you step inside the cabin of the Taycan, and if you are familiar with Porsche cabins, you would realize that there is a lot of Porsche DNA that you can find inside the cabin. And this is despite the fact that when you look at the overall design, it is unlike any other Porsche. It's so different, yet you can find that Porsche DNA inside the cabin. And hats off to the designer for getting this feat together. Now, coming to the details of the cabin, well, first of all, you have this brilliant looking 16.8-inch curved display, and this acts as your instrument cluster, and it's got a brilliant design and layout. Now, of course, this is no petrol car, so you do not have the traditional Porsche tachometer and all of that, but again, the layout here is very nice. You can customize it, of course, and even on the side you've got these nice small touch sensitive controls, so you can use it to change the ride height of the car, also the suspension or the sound that you get inside the cabin. So this again works brilliantly. You've got this very nice steering wheel. Of course, it has the drive mode selector here, so you can change the drive modes on the go. And you've got these screens here. And because of these screens, well, the first thing you see here in this cabin is that there are so many screens. It's just so many screens all around, but all of them work well. And here you've got the center console screen, and this touch screen again works well. The touch response is quick and it's got a decent interface. I wouldn't say exactly very easy. The user interface is a bit complicated, but once you get used to it, and it will take some time getting used to it, but once you get used to it, then it gets a little bit easy to use. Beyond that, the visibility of course is nice. This other screen is basically just an extension of the screen here, and it just gives a feel-good factor for the occupant up front. And this screen, well, this one is used for managing the entire climate control system, and of all the four screens, this is the one that I like the least, for the reason that first of all, it doesn't look as crisp as the other three screens. The resolution isn't that nice. Also, the touch response, you need to kind of press hard, and it gives you a kind of a haptic feedback, but it's not as fluid as the other screens. But beyond that, the cabin is a typical Porsche cabin. You've got beautiful craftsmanship, and the material quality is top notch. Everything's where you want it to be. The cabin sort of wraps around you and gives you a very driver focused feel. And in terms of features also, it has a lot of features, and you get things such as your ventilated seats, wireless charging. You've got this big massive panoramic sunroof. Of course, it's a fixed panel, you can't open it, but the kind of visibility and the kind of feel it adds to the cabin is really brilliant. The seats themselves are very nice. They sort of hold you in position. The side support is very good, and that comes in really handy when you're pushing the Taycan around corners. So again, when I look at it from a front perspective, it's very well equipped, looks great, and is functional at the same time. And now it's time to do the most interesting bit, driving the new Taycan and finding out, is it really an electrifying Porsche or not? Alright, so the figures first. Well, this comes with a 79.2 kilowatt hour battery, and what you get in terms of power output is 326 horsepower and 408, but only in the overboost mode when you're using the launch control. So on the road, in general, what you have at your disposal is 326 horsepower, and that might not sound like a lot. In fact, it isn't, because if you compare it to any of the other expensive or the luxury premium electric cars, you can get cars that are way more powerful than the Taycan. But does that dilute the driving experience? And the simple answer to that question is not at all. Well, first of all, let's talk about the acceleration. And in terms of acceleration, you can of course switch between modes. You can put it into Sport or Sport Plus, and it just feels a lot more quicker. Things just get a little bit rushed, and that's what adds to the driving experience. Now, in terms of straight line acceleration, the car accelerates in a strong fashion. It delivers all the power in a quick manner, and of course it's electric, so all of the torque is available at your disposal right from the word go. But like I said, the overall power is not that much. It's not a very high performance car, so it doesn't really pin you back to the seat. It doesn't intimidate you. It doesn't really doesn't give you any kind of a fear factor. And that is something that you want in a high performance car, but it's not in this car. So yes, but beyond that, otherwise the performance is good, and you can really have good fun with this vehicle. That said, it manages to impress with the 0 to 100 acceleration dispatch in under 6 seconds. Now consider the fact that this is a car that weighs over 2 tons. It's carrying more than 500 kilograms of battery. And despite that weight and its size, it gets to 100 in less than 6 seconds. The best part, however, about this car is when you show the Taycan some curves, and that is where the Taycan completely separates itself from any of the other electric cars, even be it Tesla. And I've driven a Tesla, so I can make some sort of a comparison here with the Taycan. Now, while a Tesla will be really fast in the straight line, the Taycan shows its strength around the corners. And again, you need to give it up for the Porsche engineers. Probably it's that experience of decades of fine-tuning a car to deliver that amazing and ultimate driving experience, that a car this big and this heavy can actually dance around corners. The steering feedback is really impressive. I mean, it's an electric car, and despite that, the kind of connect you can have with this car is amazing. I've driven a lot of electric cars, even the high performance and luxury ones. I've never felt, or I've never experienced an electric car that is so engaging to drive. The steering gets you very good feedback, lets you know what's happening with the tires. Again, the suspension does a great job. Around the corners, there's a little bit of body roll, but the car does not lose composure at any point of time. Throw her around corners at high speed, and very happily the Taycan will just go through those lines. And the kind of speed you can carry with this car around corners is amazing. It's only as you dial it in and you keep driving it, you realize that you can really throw this car around corners and have fun. And still, one of the best parts about this car is that it's so forgiving that even if you're not a very good driver, it can make you look like a good driver. In terms of ride quality, well, it's a high performance car, but despite that, the ride quality on this car is very nice. And even if you're at the back, you can have a good experience. The suspension does a good job of soaking in all the potholes and surface undulations. The other benefit you get here is that you can lift the suspension, and that comes in really handy on our Indian roads, because at times when you're encountering one of those nasty speed breaker or really bad potholes, you can simply raise the suspension at the touch of a button. Also, in case you're wondering whether it's an electric car, but at the end of the day it's a Porsche, will it drift? The answer to that is this. And what's the verdict? Well, in terms of driving, is it a true blue Porsche? Of course it is. It might not have that sound of an internal combustion engine. There's no pops and crackles to get your soul stirring, but beyond that, when it comes to performance, the Taycan has a lot to deliver. It is thoroughly a pure Porsche in terms of its DNA. It gives you the proper Porsche experience, and while it might be a little down in terms of outright power or straight line acceleration, when you show her corners, that's when the Taycan lets you know with great authority that, hey, I'm still a true blue Porsche. And now it's time to answer the big question. The Taycan, is it a proper Porsche or not? And the answer to that is, it most definitely is. Yes, it might not have an engine, and that's why it does not have the roaring sound, the pops and crackles, the gear shift, all of that, but still, it delivers a proper Porsche experience in terms of driving and dynamics. As far as sound goes, well, it's not entirely silent. You can choose not to be. It's got a very futuristic sound that you can switch on from the panel or from one of these side buttons, and well, it just gives you a very electric, sort of a Star Wars kind of a futuristic zingy vibe inside the cabin. It's a funky sound, and at times you would enjoy driving with it. Circling back to the performance bit though, well, like I said, in terms of straight line speed and power, the raw power, well, that is something that the Taycan might not have, but what really works in its favor is it's got pure Porsche and sports car like handling, and that is something that no other car in this electric segment can boast of. Of course, in terms of design too, it looks like a proper Porsche. It looks modern, it looks futuristic, especially at the back. If you see, it's got that proper 911 kind of a similar appeal, and the tail where you have the Porsche branding done in glass, well, that again looks great. The build quality, the paint quality, all of it is phenomenal, and what I really like are the headlamps. It's got this very nice futuristic design to it, the LED DRLs and the air curtain also around the wheels that minimizes drag, and in fact this is one of the most slippery car that Porsche has ever made. It's got a coefficient drag of just 0.22. So all of these things were put together, you get from the Taycan what you would expect from any Porsche, a proper fun to drive and a great car, and that's exactly what the Taycan does, but without really harming the planet. It's electric, so it also gives you that feel-good factor. And at the end of the day, should you buy it or not? Well, to start off, it is a fairly expensive car at 1.5 crore rupees as the starting price, and of course it depends on the options that you choose. It's a Porsche, so you can customize it a lot. This particular car that we are driving is almost 1.8 crore ex-showroom. So for that kind of money and the car that you get, the performance, it is definitely an expensive proposition. But if at the end of the day it's an electric high performance car that you want, so if you're out in the market looking for a high performance electric car and you don't just bother about the straight line performance and just the horsepower numbers and torque, well, all of that, if you look beyond all of that and you are in the search for a car that is properly premium, it feels great to be in, it gives you a good occupant experience, but most importantly it gives you an engaging driving experience, especially around corners, well then my friends, the Taycan is pretty much the best option or the best electric car you can buy today in terms of pure driving engagement.